We got a schedule release. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and rocking with us. As always, man, Bulls have released their 2022 schedule. So we had to get in here and break it down and, of course, talk about what we plan on seeing from our Chicago Bulls this season. Early reactions, early predictions, all that stuff that's way too early to really get into. And it starts right now. As always, man, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago Bulls, how Bulls talk. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. Got the Bears merch on because we got more Bears content coming your way as well. But stay tuned in with us on the Bulls content, man. We appreciate you guys for tuning in and rocking with us. Hit that like button and subscribe to the page. Let's get in to this schedule because Bulls got a lot of national TV games coming their way this season. I believe 14, if I counted correctly, national TV games. Now I'm gonna try and we're gonna try and pull this up on the screen as well so that you guys can see it. But at first glance, right, here's the thing that I like about the Bulls schedule at first glance that I really feel is better than what we saw last season, right? And it's kind of what we talked about over on Locked On Bulls. And forgive me for looking away from the camera right now. I'm doing a lot of things at once. It's kind of what we talked about, though, over at Locked On Bulls, right? There is a definite... What's the right word here? There's more of a focus here early on with mixing up the games. And so we'll get to see what our team is very early on here. Let's go over to our reaction video here, or our reaction page here, I should say. Boom, that should pull up the screen. There we go. So here's our national TV games to get this thing started off, man. What the heck is going on here? Oh, that's what's going on. I'm not in 4K right now. Aha, well, let me increase the size of me there. Don't worry about that. Boom. But yeah, we're starting things off. We've got 14 national TV games here. You got Philadelphia, Charlotte, Boston, Golden State, New York, Boston again, Detroit. A lot of NBA TV games. By the way, guys, the drought is over. The Chicago Bulls are back on TNT. So you gotta love that as well. We'll get to hear Charles Barkley talking about us, all that good stuff, you know, really enjoying that time. But I mean, here's the thing, right? I feel like there's definitely more of an effort when you look at our schedule this season where come on now, where my bad, y'all. I'm using OBS for the first time in a while, so there's a little bit of up and down here. But I feel like there's more of an effort for the first time in a long time to where now we're gonna see what this team is competing. There's gonna see what this team is early on attacking. Right. Let's jump into this first month here of the season and look at where the Bulls start things off here as we go over here to our man myth, Zach LaVine on the profile picture here. Boom. We started off in Miami, 10-19. I think that's a good start to the season. You get to see where this Bulls team is going to be down low. You're going to get to see how this team is going to be able to really be able to deal with bigs down low like Bam Adebayo, right? That's somewhere where the Bulls struggled last season. Also, you're going to get to see what this offense really is around the Chicago Bulls, right? Because Miami was one of the best defensive teams in the NBA last year. I think that's something that really is going to allow the Bulls to set the tone on this season early on. Then you see us go out to Washington. We've got Cleveland. Cleveland's another one, right, where it jumps in right away. Okay, what about Cleveland sticks out to me? Well, the fact for the first off that they're nothing but bigs. They're nothing but big. So I'm looking at that early on and saying, okay, so we got our big man collection here already. How is Andre Drummond going to fit into this scheme? How are these moves that the Bulls have made in the offseason going to fit into the scheme? Here's 3 games early on, right? You got Miami, Washington, Cleveland, where now we're going to get to ask the question, hey, how does Marko Simnovic fit into all of this? How does Marko Simnovic fit into this entire thing? Because he's a big that we're going to have to rely on this season, I think, at that backup 4 position. Also, in your first 4 games here, again, you're adding Boston in there. You got a more balanced schedule, I think, early on here, but you're adding Boston in there. And you're talking about a team right now that, okay, Patrick Williams is going to be getting a lot of run here. Like, this is not to say that he wouldn't be getting run, but this is going to be something where you're going to look at this and you're going to say, okay, P. Will's really got to step up. P. Will's really got to make some offensive steps here, and he's got to be one of the guys defensively that you really look at. So I'm excited to see kind of how the season goes there. Let's go over to the next one there. We're looking at December. My bad. How about we finish out January or October, I should say. You got San Antonio. Philly's a game, of course, we're going to be watching for, but I think a lot of the same things can be said. Brooklyn is going to be interesting because you don't know what team you're getting. Then you got Charlotte, Boston again, back-to-back in Toronto. Back-to-back in Toronto. Here's the question. Do you feel better about the Bulls' travel schedule this season than you did last season? Do you feel better about the Bulls' travel schedule this season than you did last season? I think that's a real question there. I feel better seeing how this team kind of moves around. Now, they've got 1 game at Toronto. Then they come to Chicago. Then they're at home versus New Orleans. Then they go to Toronto. Then they fly out to New Orleans. Then it's over to Denver. New Orleans again. That's in New Orleans. I said that backwards. Don't worry about it. Y'all know what I meant. Versus Toronto, versus New Orleans, versus Denver. Those are all at home. And then you go out to New Orleans. Then we are back home for Orlando, at home for Boston. We're going to Milwaukee, going to OKC, going to Utah, going to Phoenix. That's going to be probably the start of our West Coast trip there. So let's go over as we keep it going. Yep, we're going to be in Golden State, 12-2. That is a marquee game. That is a nationally televised game. So that's going to be real fun to see there. Also, early on in the season, right, you're getting your tests. It's not like last year where we just kind of stumbled into some of those teams. You're getting your tests early on in the season. So I think that's something to really see how we measure up as a team and see if continuity was the move. Then you got Sacramento, Washington. Dallas is going to be an interesting one. I'm thinking about that one's here in Chicago. Later in the year, though, there's a game in Dallas. I'm thinking about going to that game. I don't know. December in Atlanta, might go out there. New York again. I don't get what's with the New York back-to-backs. I'm kind of sick of seeing the New York back-to-backs. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I don't get that move right there. Then you're going to Minnesota. Minnesota's going to be a tough team this year. They got Rudy Gobert. That is going to be a completely different level of defense this season. And especially they're basically running a Twin Towers set there with Cat out there. So you gotta. I mean, that's going to be a extremely tough matchup for the Chicago Bulls, especially size-wise. That's a matchup, I think, where you're going to try and see, okay, do we have the outside shooting that we need? That might be a game where you see a lot of Goran Dragic. That might be a game where you see a lot of Kobe White getting some run. You might even see Dalen Terry get in on that one. Then out to Miami. Then we go to Atlanta, New York again. We play New York 3 times in the same month. What is that? What is that? Houston, Milwaukee, Detroit, Cleveland. I don't get all the New York, bro. I really don't. I really don't. I mean, listen, how do you guys feel about the first couple of months of the season? How are you guys looking at that first couple of months of the season, right? Do you feel like that is a better start to our season so that we can properly gauge our team, right? I think last season we did have the New York thing, but we didn't play nearly as tough teams, and we didn't play teams that had already had that continuity, right? I mean, we played Boston early on in the year. Boston was sputtering early on in the year. Nobody would doubt that. We played Brooklyn where they had one half of their team. We did beat them, but we played, they didn't have Kyrie. When they had Kyrie, of course, we know how that ended. And hopefully that can change for the Chicago Bulls coming into this season. But just kind of looking at early on in the season for me, I feel like this is more of a more balanced schedule. I feel like it's a schedule that answers a lot of questions early on, and I think it's better for you, right? Because now if you do want to make a move at the halfway point, if you do want to make a move before the trade deadline, now you've got that option where you're able to look at it and you say, okay, yeah, I see kind of what we're up against here, and I see kind of the struggles that we have. Now let's see how we can add to the team to improve upon those struggles. Let's keep it going. We got January on the list. You got Cleveland starting things off in January, and then you're going out to or back home to Brooklyn. Then we're out to Philly. Philly's going to be an interesting matchup all season for us, dog. I'm not going to lie. I don't think Philly's a better team this season. I'm talking about as a whole, right? But Philly's a tough matchup for us. We know what the post is like down low, and I'll tell you what, Andre Drummond is not the answer versus Joel Embiid. Andre Drummond has never been the answer versus Joel Embiid. I don't expect Andre Drummond to already start being the answer versus Joel Embiid. Then you got Utah. You come back home to play Utah, then right back on the road out versus Boston. That's going to be a nationally televised game there. You got Washington, OKC, Golden State, couple lulls in there. Washington, we don't know what that team's going to be, but I don't expect much out of them. OKC, I think, is going to be a very beatable team for the Bulls there. Golden State, another one where you're like, you got them at home. That could be one where the Bulls remember last season. The Bulls remember what it was like going up against those teams. They remember what it was like going up against those players and how they kind of disrespected what the Bulls were trying to do. Then Detroit, nationally televised game versus Detroit. Very interesting there. Now, again, right, that's probably a NBA TV game, which are awful. And we were talking about this over on the in like the Locked On water cooler that we have where we all get together and stuff like that. Do you guys count NBA TV games as a nationally televised game? I feel like a nationally televised game to me is one where you have to say, one, where maybe you don't have an option to watch it on a different stream, like watch it on the NBC stream. But two, right, like where I look at it and I say, okay, this is not a better broadcast than what I would get with Stacey King and Adam Amin. Right? Like I feel like for it to be a national TV game, it's got to be something where I'm like, no, listen, I love you, Stace. I love you, Adam. But I want to go hear Marv, or I want to go hear an iconic voice do this. But the NBA TV games to me are just like, bro, like I shout out to y'all for putting the Bulls on national television. We got two back-to-back national games, though. We got Detroit on national TV, and then we got Atlanta. Atlanta's going to be an interesting team this season because I really want to see how that backcourt fits together, and if Ayo Dosunmu is still going to be babying Trae Young this season. You know, that's always an interesting thing as an outlook. Then we got Indiana, Charlotte again. Are both Charlotte games national TV games? Am I seeing that correct? Are we really hyping up the Ball brothers going against each other? Is that the hope here? And then we got Orlando and the Clippers finishing out the month of January. And then we head over here, boom. Oh, nope, on the wrong spot. Then we head over here, boom, to February. Nikola Vucevic looking you in the eye. Here's pie in your eye, my boy. You got Charlotte starting it off. Portland, San Antonio, Memphis, Brooklyn, Cleveland, Orlando, Indiana, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Washington, Toronto. Now, when I looked at this, I said February is probably our best, our easiest set of games in the season. It's pretty much right. There's been a lot of games that have been here and there where like you get a couple week games here and there. But I think this is one where I feel like the Bulls kind of are going to have a easier schedule. Now it depends on what Bulls team we get, right? But I mean, to me, you look at this, right? Portland's going to be in flux. Yeah, they got Dame Lillard, but Portland to me is a little bit in flux. San Antonio to me is completely rebuilding. Charlotte, I have no belief in that team. Now, did they beat us last year? Yeah, but I just don't view Charlotte as a tough team. Memphis is definitely a tough game, and they should have Jaren Jackson Jr. back by this point, I believe. And then on top of that, right, Brooklyn, to me, that's a question mark. Brooklyn is a question mark. By the way, 2 national TV games versus Brooklyn this year. And then you got Cleveland. That's a tough team. Orlando, toss up again. Indiana, no. Milwaukee, tough. Brooklyn, who knows? Washington, And Toronto, we do a good job as. Shout out to you guys in the chat. McCoy Music says, def consider NBA TV national. Quality is a little whack, but a lot of people do watch those games still. Oh, yeah, there's a ton of people that definitely still watch those games. But, I mean, it's to me, it's a poor – it's like watching ESPN, but, like, the version that you – like ESPN 8. What was it? ESPN the Ocho. That's how it feels watching an NBA TV game. Yeah, I mean, that's how it feels watching an NBA TV game. Alex says Orlando's not a toss-up. The reason I say Orlando's a toss-up to me is because Wendell Carter Jr. usually performs really well against the Bulls. Just kind of like to prove that you shouldn't have traded me, which, like, okay, I don't really feel like we lost anything with trading Wendell, but okay, shout out to him. That's the only reason, Alex, that I say that it's a toss-up. King Kahala says, is the biggest concern Lonzo's health right now? Yeah, I think it is, right? Like it changes your viewpoint of the entire schedule if Lonzo is not healthy. So yeah, absolutely. Lonzo's health is your main concern right now. Let's check out the final couple months here as we got Patrick Williams giving us the point. Hey man, you better be doing that to somebody this season, my boy. You better be giving them come on now. Detroit, Phoenix, Indiana, Denver, Houston, Sacramento, Minnesota, Miami. Now, a lot of back and forth. You get 3 days at home between the 15th and the 18th. Then you head out to Philly. Then you're back home versus Philly. That's not too bad of a stretch there, finishing out your season. And then we go out again to the West. We go to Portland, to the Lakers, to the Clippers, play the Lakers again. We got the Lakers twice in LA this season, but not as bad, right? Because they're still in, I'm calling it the Staples Center. The Staples Center, right? So they're basically going to be there from the 26th through the 29th, probably through the 30th. And then they got to fly back home. Then they got to fly back to Charlotte. My bad. I read that wrong. Did I read that wrong? I did read that wrong. My bad. So we're at LA. So we got 2 games back to back, and then we come home to play the Lakers. My bad. And then we go out to Charlotte. Home versus Memphis, home versus Atlanta, at Milwaukee. That's pretty much still a home game. They sleep in their own beds for that game. Then we go out to Dallas. I might go to that game. I might be intrigued to go to that game, finishing out the season. And then we finish the season versus Detroit. So that is the Chicago Bulls schedule there. How we're going to be breaking it down over here on the channel. By the way, if you guys are new in here, man, hit that like button and subscribe to the page. 61 in here, only 16 likes. Go ahead and hit that like button for your boy, man. Here's my game plan on breaking this down. I want to break this down month by month. So I'm going to drop basically 5 different videos, 5 or I guess 6 different videos because it's over 6 months, but there's not as many games in one of the months. I'm gonna drop breaking it down month by month, give my win-loss prediction there. And basically just, I mean, that's my game plan for Bulls content over the next few days. So make sure you guys are tuned in with us on that. Here's the question to you guys in the chat. And I think this is the part that you really have to focus in on with the Chicago Bulls. Now that the schedule has dropped, the question on the table for just talking point today's video: how will the Chicago Bulls fare versus national TV games? We only won one, I believe, national TV game last season, and we struggled in many of them. It just looked like the Bulls were not a good team in many of them. Again, to remind you of what those national TV games are, we got it versus Philly, starting it off on NBA TV. That's 10/29. I think, again, that is a very tough matchup for the Chicago Bulls. I think that's probably the toughest matchup that the Bulls are going to have. Again, I know I've slandered Philly a lot, but I think Philly just does a lot of things well that we don't do well. Sometimes that's how it goes. I don't think Philly's a better team as a whole than the Bulls are, but when I look at Philadelphia, they do a lot of things better than we do. So while I can see the Bulls winning more games than Philly, I also can see Philly beating us. Sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. So I think that's a tough one there. I'll say the Bulls probably split with Philly this year on the national TV games. I think they probably take an L in the first one. Then you got Charlotte. I think that's a dub. Boston, I think is going to be, do we got 2 versus Boston? Yeah, Boston, I think is going to be a split for the Bulls. So I would say we'll take the first one here on 11-4. So 2-1 there. Golden State. I'm going to give that an L. I'm going to pay respect to the champs. New York is a dub easily. I think the Bulls can get this one versus Philly. So where am I at now? I'm at 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, 4-2 on national TV. I said we'll split there. So 4-3 right now. I think we beat Detroit. Detroit versus who? Not worried about it. Let's go 5-3 there. Did I do that right? Yeah, 5-3 there. Atlanta, I think we beat because I still have Ayo Dosunmu dominating Trae Young there. So let's go 6-3 there. Charlotte, again, I'm not confident in Charlotte at any point. I just don't think they're going to be a much better team, especially losing a major piece like Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges. So I'm going to say 7-3 there. We got Brooklyn. I don't know what this Brooklyn team is going to be. If they're, I'll put a caveat on this. If Kevin Durant and Kyrie are there and TJ Warren and Ben Simmons, I think that team's going to be better than a lot of people think. So I'll say an L there, but I don't know if that's going to be that team. So I'm going to say 7-4 on that one. I think we could split with them. Milwaukee, to me, I think the Bulls are going to come out with such an aggression, especially being back on TNT in that first Milwaukee game, that I could see the Bulls getting that one. So I'm going to go 8-4. I said we split with Brooklyn, so I'll say, again, I don't know what the team is, but I'll say we split with them. So let's go 9-4, and I think Milwaukee will take that last one. So let's go 9-5. I've got the Bulls 9-5 right now on national TV games. And here's the thing to remember. When you're looking at kind of where this Bulls team is and how this Bulls team is going to be able to attack those national TV games better than last season. Last season, this Bulls team didn't have their full health in a lot of those national TV games. We never had Patrick Williams in any of the early ones, I don't think. I think Zach LaVine missed a bit of time. Actually, Zach LaVine played in a couple of them, but he ended up having to miss, the Miami game and I think the Milwaukee game after that, which I believe were both national TV games because he hurt the knee in game at the beginning of that Miami game. So I think that's going to be that health plays a major part coming into these games. If the Bulls are a healthy team, I think that's how the schedule plays out. If the Bulls are missing any of their major pieces, it absolutely could be one of those things like we saw last season where they just can't get the job done. Again, Lonzo Ball means so much to this team. So right now, I would say I have the Bulls going 9-5 in that national TV matchup. But the question again, how healthy is this Bulls team going to be? How much is this Bulls team going to change their scheme with adding Andre Drummond in, with adding Marko Simonovic in? Well, I've said his name like 17 different times in this live. With adding a lot of different players in there, right? Like that we didn't expect to do much for it. Well, they weren't here last season, and players that we didn't expect or that we expected to do a lot for us last season that just weren't there for us. So I think that's something that you really have to clue in on. I'm hoping that that's not a stretch on my part, and I'm not seeing red too much there. But I feel like if your team goes 9-5, right, like you feel good about that team as not only as a national team, but also as a team that can hang with the big dogs in a lot of these games. And I think that's the biggest thing that you want to see. How's this Bulls team going to be able to hang with the big dogs? I'll say this as well. I think the experience in the playoffs from last season also adds to this Bulls team being able to win a lot more of these national TV games. You got to think when they really got over the national TV hump was in the playoffs when they got that game 2 in Milwaukee, a very improbable game for them to go out there and get. I think that changes the mentality. That changes how hard this Bulls team fights. That changes what this Bulls team does in these national TV games. I think this Bulls team comes in with a completely different mentality this season when we're talking about when you look at last season, right, being number one, being the hunted, getting hunted down, and then having to be the hunter and essentially continuing to slide because of injury and things like that. I think that mixed with the fact that they got a little bit of playoff experience, you're going to see this Bulls team come out with a little bit more aggression here coming into this season. And so I'm excited for it, man. I think this is going to be a fun season. We'll be here live calling every single game unless I go to the game. But for the most part, I don't go to games because I love live calling them with y'all. So make sure that y'all stay in tune with us on that. Like I said, we're going to be breaking down the schedule game by game, month by month, and we'll be dropping that over on the Breeze and on the Chicago Bulls Breeze as well. So stay tuned in with us for that. We appreciate you guys for showing love. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. To continue watching our Chicago Bulls content, click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below. We will have the month of October out tomorrow, breaking down the schedule, giving a win-loss prediction, and hopefully figuring out how this Bulls team is going to do coming into this season. Y'all stay safe out there.